We're becoming increasingly aware that the burden of rare lung disease is both large and increasing. So, for example, the incidence and prevalence of the diseases are not very well known, but roughly 1 in 2,000 people across the world will have one form of rare lung disease or another. To try to quantify that in a readily identifiable measure, in Italy, the numbers of individuals could fill an average-sized football stadium. So this is not a trivial problem when all of these diseases are considered together. The difficulty is that individually they're quite rare. Because they're rare, patients feel ill-informed about these diseases, what they are, how they'll progress, what treatment is available or not. Their primary care physician doesn't understand what these diseases are because he or she doesn't see very many. And so the patient feels deeply disenfranchised, and the term orphan has been coined for this group of people, or this group of diseases, people with these diseases, because they do feel abandoned with no information and no hope of treatment. And for that reason, I think it's really very important that units of excellence develop internationally in order to provide core expertise which will at once inform the patient, make precise diagnoses, become part of clinical trials of new therapy, which together will improve the quality of life and outcome of these people with these rare lung problems. What is needed in one of these centers of excellence is a multidisciplinary team. This is not a group of disorders that can be treated by individuals operating alone. And I think the minimum that are needed are a good team of nurses and people in the professions allied to medicine, clearly doctors, physiotherapists, but also radiologists and pathologists with a particular interest in this group of diseases to provide a multidisciplinary approach. Now, I would see this as the core requirement, the platform from which all other networking can happen. And that networking would include colleagues in other departments, for example, rheumatologists, cardiologists, immunologists, and working together, large cohorts of patients can be built up. A clearer picture established of the patterns of their disease, which can be utilized in bench research, which in turn will ultimately translate into new therapeutic approaches. And once a center is becoming recognized, inevitably pharmaceutical companies will want them to recruit patients into their trials, so their networking will become internationalized. And I think while we all would love to have new technologies of measuring biomarkers, for example, or molecular imaging of pathology, at the moment we are not utilizing those resources we have. So more use of CT scanning, biopsies where necessary, multidisciplinary discussion, huge advances can be made in the quality of care across the world, and more specifically here in Italy, where we are taking part in a symposium to mark the opening of a rare lung centre. So I think that consolidating the strengths, having a core group of individuals with continuity is the nucleus from which all of these other networking benefits will accrue. So additional benefits will spin out of coordinated centres of excellence, and the patients are focused. They form patient action groups, information groups. They wish to engage in this process. The doctors and the other clinical staff are clearly keen. The pharmaceutical industry is beginning to recognize that these diseases are worthy of trial. So there is a real momentum, and the only thing which I believe is impeding real progress in these areas is governmental support, health body support, central support. And while one recognises that funding has to be rationed. Taken together, the numbers of individuals affected by these diseases across the world is absolutely immense, and governments do need to become cognizant of this. And how one will achieve the ear of somebody powerful enough to modulate the current funding stream is difficult. And the reasons are, I think, severalfold. Firstly, individually these diseases are rare, and one has less of an image of a conglomerate of rare diseases, if you like. I think secondly, the group of individuals that are affected by many of these diseases are middle-aged folk, and that's not politically newsworthy. And so we don't have a good lever. We need lobbying. We need a standard bearer for these disenfranchised patients to take this to central governments across Europe, to really make them listen and to recognize the absolute need for them to support these centres of excellence that are going to provide immense health economic benefits to citizens of their countries. Occasionally, one hears that district clinicians who look after their patients and wish to provide the continuity of care fear that once a patient is referred to a centre of excellence, they'll never see them again. And I think that I would therefore very much want to stress the added value role of the centre of excellence. The people with the expertise are there. They can provide input that will supplement the care of the district physician. So rather than take over those patients, they'll provide a hub from which patients can get the added value of a centre of excellence, but while still being cared for by their district physician in tandem with the specialist. So it's very much a cooperation, a collaboration, if you like, between district physicians and experts in these centres of excellence.